Alright, so for chapter 21, we're going to be talking about periodization. And so, to put into my own words what I feel periodization is, I believe or understand it as a systematic approach to organizing a training program and to optimize an athlete's performance. And it also is used to help minimize overtraining and promote long-term development for the athlete. And it also helps to provide a good framework or structure for manipulating training variables, and in order to easily adjust things such as intensity, volume, frequency over time in order to better accomplish the specific goal for the athlete. So there's three different types of cycles we can discuss when we're talking about periodization. So there is the macro cycle, which is usually considered an annual training plan. So that is the plan for the whole year. So macro meaning large. So it's the macro cycle, and then it's the meso cycle, which is usually a couple of weeks at a time. So that can also be known as the type of training that you're wanting to do. So an example, usually mesocycles are between 1 to 5 or even 6 weeks at a time. And so usually you can use these for a specific training plan. So an example would be hypertrophy, strength, aerobic, things like that. And then you have micro, which is every week. So it's specifying the intensity, exercise and duration, all those things for that volume, frequency, all those things for a specific week at a time. And so when looking at a sample program for a collegiate volleyball player, there's going to be, with this specific volleyball player in this discussion, their competition season is in late August and in early December. So the format that I'm going to be talking about is off-season, preseason, and season and post-season training. And so of course we have here the first part is prepping the preseason. The time frame for this is going to be between May to around mid-August, right before the season starts. And so the goal of this phase or this preseason is going to be to build the foundational strength, endurance, and really hone in on those volleyball specific skills in order to get ready for the season. And so, of course, getting ready for general physical preparedness. It's going to be muscular endurance, aerobic capacity, and strength. It's going to be high to a moderate volume and low to moderate resistant training. You don't want to overwork the athlete before the season comes in. And then you can do both aerobic conditioning and plyometric and speed agility. And then, of course, you want to work on volleyball specific drills to make sure that the athlete is freshened up and ensure that they are prepared for the season to come. And then you have in season, which is from mid-August, late August to early December. And so the goal for this is going to be to maintain that strength and power throughout the season and also the skill. This one, you definitely don't want to overwork the athlete. You want to make sure that they're staying in shape and staying ready, but you just want to make sure that you're not overworking them. And so again, it's just to keep them well-rounded for the season. So focusing on those technical skills. And so more specifically, usually in the pre-competitive stage, you want to focus on high interval training because it's short, but it's effective, and low volume, high intensity resistance training, technical practice. So again, practicing these sport specific drills that can be things like scrimmages as well. And then right during the competition phase, in the meat and potatoes of the competition phase, you want to focus on, again, maintaining strength and power. So doing 1 to 2 sessions of moderate intensity exercises, but also focusing on recovery is really important. So doing light aerobic exercises and working on mobility and flexibility are very important. And then again, really honing in on the sport specific exercises to make sure that the athlete is well rounded. And then you have postseason, which is going to be in the December timeframe. and it's going to allow physical and mental recovery while maintaining a minimal level of fitness. And so the key training elements of this are to ensure that they're still being active. So light aerobic and recreational activities and exercises, things like swimming, cycling, they don't have to be sport specific to the athlete, just as long as they're doing some sort of light aerobic recreational exercise. And then, of course, body weight exercises as well, again, for maintenance, and also, again, emphasizing mobility, stretching, and flexibility. And so, to get into more of the specific details, you have the preseason phase, which is going to be from May to mid August. And then you have the competition phase, which is from mid August to December. And then, of course, the off season is going to be in the December time frame. And then you also have your off season, which is going to be very similar. It's going to focus on maintaining the strength, and so doing light aerobic activities, but also ensuring that the athlete is doing mobility, stretching, things like that. And then to discuss the training program for the female collegiate basketball player in the textbook. So the way that they have it formatted in the textbook, so it has the end season period for the basketball player between, it's a 20-week period from November 21st to April 3rd. And the reason that this is longer than the one mentioned before is because it specifically said for mid-August or late August to early December, and that's about a 16-week period. But for this basketball player, it's including a tournament season, and that's why it has more weeks added to it. So as far as the mesocycles go, the first mesocycle includes a lot of hypertrophy or strength training. And so the first mesocycle is 5 weeks, but the patterns here, and this is also for the first, second, and third mesocycles of the end season training, it's going to have 5 weeks. And so the 4 weeks are going to be about, increasing that intensity. So you can see an example is for week 1, the high pull is at a 75% 1 rep max. And by week 4, we're at 90% 1 rep max. And then the 5th week for these exercises is going to be a deload week, or essentially a deload week is when you take it easier on that 5th week, or you take some sort of rest on the exercises in order to allow your muscles to recover properly and to allow your body to recover properly. And they say that this helps a lot of athletes recover quicker and also be able to gain muscle stronger than if they weren't to take a deload week. So both for the upper body and lower body exercises, we can see here that it's the same thing. They're usually between 70 to 80% rep max or intensity within the first week, and then by the 4th week, it's between 85 to 95%. And then within that 5th deload week, it's going to be between 60 to 70% intensity for those. And then same thing for the second week, for the second mesocycle. So specifically for the second mesocycle, it's going to be more based on, it still has some strength exercises, but now we're starting to include power exercises. So the first mesocycle is more of just basic strength. Second mesocycle is going to focus more on hypertrophy and a little bit of power movements. And then for this third mesocycle, it's going to be kind of half and half. It's going to be, again, strength, but then also some power movements as well. And then this specific program also kind of discusses the tournaments as well. And so what it's essentially saying here is it's going to be a lot more rest than it would be in the regular season. And so even though in the regular season there's already not a lot of exercises, on average it's between 4 that are weight resistant, this one is going to be, even less because of the practices and because of games and everything. And so it kind of brought up a good point here that I saw, is that these tournaments have 2 to 3 games a week, and so that's why kind of usually you want to go back or kind of lay off some of the intensity and some of the exercises and how often you're doing them to allow the athlete proper recovery time. And then within the off season, you have this is more of the preparation period. So instead of kind of increasing strength, you're going to be doing or maintaining strength. You're going to be really focusing on hypertrophy, making sure that the athlete is gaining more strength in order to prepare for on season. So for this, of course, within the off season, you also want to do pre-testing, so then you can understand where your goals are. So it has things like T-tests, vertical jump tests, and stuff like that. So within the first mesocycle of the off-season phase, it highlights the hypertrophy and the strength endurance phases. And so it kind of has not a lot more, but in the on season there was only an average of 4 exercises, and for this one it's going to be about 5 or 6. And so I should also note that all of these are include at least 1 or 2 core exercises, which I feel like is also very important. But for this one, it's going to include a more drawn out intensity building. So unlike the on season, there was about a 4-week difference between jumping from 70% to 90% intensity. And so for this one, it's about the same, but it does it at a much slower rate, especially because you have more exercises to go through as well. So say for example, within this first phase, mesocycle, again focusing on hypertrophy and strength, the this one also only has weight and power movements twice a week, rather than in the on season it's 5 times a week. Because even though we also are focusing on hypertrophy and strength, we in the off season we also want to allow the athlete to recover as well. And so then we have the second mesocycle, which is basic strength. So hypertrophy refers to building strength and being able to get stronger, essentially. And then, so say for example, you have a goal of deadlifting from 135 to 155 by the end of the month. So you would have to do hypertrophy, which is increasing weight after every session in order to reach your goal. So for the second mesocycle, this is more of a basic strength phase. So it's not necessarily a goal to increase weight per se or to get stronger. It's to make sure that you are keeping your basic form and understanding. Like an example is right here is a clean pull. So you're doing clean pulls, power cleans, back squats, very basic exercises to make sure that you're staying well-rounded, making sure you have your basic foundational strength in place. And then there is the unloading week on this last part. So again, like I mentioned before, same thing, it has the unloading week. And then mesocycle 3 is only 2 weeks long. And for this off season, it's focusing on 2-week intervals. So then for mesocycle 3, we're back to hypertrophy and strength. This time, the intensity percentages are a lot less. So if we go back to mesocycle 1, it's about 65% for all of them. But then by the time we get to mesocycle 3, we're down to 55. And that's because we're doing more, we're still trying to do hypertrophy and strength, but we're likely going to increase. The main one that decrease in intensity is at 55% on the hang snatch. And that's because we're doing more reps of that one. So in my mind, that makes more sense. And then also we're just getting off of a deload week. And then we have mesocycle 4, which is another 2 weeks, and another basic strength phase. And then once again, we have the unloading week. So the cycles for this one are usually 2 mesocycles and then an unload week. And the same thing again, 2 mesocycles and an unload week. And then for this last mesocycle of the off-season phase, it's again strength and power. So now we're going to include a little bit more power. And so the intensity on these is very high. And then we're going to take an unload week after that. And then usually after this, you do your testing again to see where the changes are within the athlete's program. And that's pretty much it.